Hello, everybody, and welcome to Starting Point. I'm so excited to be with you guys today. If this is your first time tuning in, you should know that Starting Point is a virtual living room where we get to dive into conversations about facing fear, starting therapy, and eating good. And today we have some very special guests. I'm very excited to share them with you. You've seen them here before, so you're going to be excited too. And we're going to be addressing relationships with food growing up, societal pressures of appearance, and caring for our communities. You answer this question of the day that you see at the bottom of the screen. What is the question? It is, what is one thing that you ate once and will never eat again? Maybe I should have said, what is one thing that you've eaten once and would never eat again? Maybe my country is coming out in that question, but you see the question. So answer the question in the comments below, and our guests are going to answer those questions first as they introduce themselves. So please like this video, comment below, and let us know that you're watching. Share this so that the public can join, because today we're talking about public opinions about addressing relationships with food, societal pressures of appearance and body image, and how to care for our communities. And I will hand it over to our guest. Please introduce yourself and answer that question of the day. Make sure your mic isn't muted.
Hey everybody, my name's Alicia Johnson. I'm Jasmine's sister. That's an honor and a privilege. I'm so excited to be back here on Starting Point. I'm a humongous fan of this platform and of this show because I just think it's so real and it's so timely. So I am a social worker, a master's level social worker. I attended Stephen F. Austin, Action Jacks. I'm a mom of 3 boys, husband of one, wife of one husband named Michael Johnson. And I am the CEO of a local nonprofit called Longview Queens United. I've been trying to think about the thing that I wouldn't eat that I've eaten again. And I am not very I guess exploratory in my foods, but so I don't have anything I wouldn't try again. Even when I tried oysters, but I tried them fried and they were okay. Now, if on the raw ones, I probably wouldn't do.
We gotta get you in. We gotta get you to
No,
try.
the raw ones. Okay, so there's that. I had raw sushi. Never. The consistency is an absolute no for me. It was like, nah, I'm good with it.
No. I'm gonna get you to try that again too.
No, thank you.
Our next guest, everybody say hello to Alicia Johnson in the comments, and our next guest will introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Clint Holmes. Thank you for having me. I appreciate and enjoy being a part of these discussions and, of course, supporting what you're doing. So, again, thank you. So, I'm not originally from East Texas, born and raised in Terrell, Terrell Tigers to be exact, home of Jamie Foxx. That's the question that I get most of the time.
Yes.
I guess starting out, listen.
That's your question.
And so it begins.
Starting my professional career as a mechanical engineer, but transitioning into kind of the nonprofit space. I am the director of Thrive Longview, which specializes in teen character development.
Yes.
That work kind of introduced me to the work of being a fitness trainer, which I've been doing for about 6 years. Recently starting a community called Kainos Wellness Community. Right now centered around fitness, but has some other components, specifically what we're discussing today. So I'm very excited. My one thing is caviar. I had it a long time ago, and I had it on accident, and that will never happen again.
What did it taste like? Was it salty?
I do not remember. I just remember what it looked like, and it was not pleasant. I don't remember if it was like more grainy, but it just, when I realized what it was, everything about it just, I lost it.
I've always been very interested in what caviar tastes like. I've never gotten around to it, and that's not one of those things that you want to try the cheap version of it, and so I just didn't try it. But I want
It was at like an upscale art exhibit, and I had some on a cracker. I thought it was just like dip. Yeah, it was a no go for me.
I thought it was dip. Wasn't it like round?
It was like black and yeah, real
I
small,
can
grainy.
imagine.
Like nah, I'm good.
I think that we all have a seafood one. Leisha's is raw sushi. Yours is caviar. Mine is I went to a hot pot place once and they had these baby octopuses. And so I put it in the thing and I was like, because I am adventurous with food. And so I was like, let me just taste this. And then I put it in my mouth and it just, I don't like to be able to feel the parts of the animal. And like, it was like the head and the legs of it. It just felt like
Oh,
it was,
Oh, so it was literally
it
like
was
a.
like a little octopus. And I was just like, it was like, well, just bite it. I was like, I just can't, I just gotta take it out. And so it was more texture for me than it was the actual taste of it, but I couldn't get with it.
right.
Was it still alive?
No, it was a little dead baby octopus about this big.
That's
Oh
sad.
my.
And it like shriveled up. Oh, I feel weird just thinking about it. Okay.
I just feel like because you never really know when octopuses or octopi are gonna be dead. I just feel like they would just.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like what is octopi? Is that the word you said? They are aliens.
I've
If
seen a
ever,
documentary on that. I
if
have.
ever there was an alien, it would be an octopus. I 100% believe.
I'm gonna share you a documentary on like a Netflix special on that.
You should.
Watch the DC with Regina King HBO series.
Yes, yes, yes. Watchmen.
Yes, that will support your theory.
I think, I did watch that, and maybe that's where my theory came from. I was very confused the whole time I watched it until the very last episode,
Oh, I
but I
love
did
it.
watch it.
And just to clarify, I love sushi, but just not any of it that's raw.
I think that all of the bad foods come from the water. I think the best foods come from the water, and the worst foods come from the water. Because I love fish the most, but also all the weird things that I've ever eaten have been out of there.
But in the scriptures, don't it tell us not to eat them? Not just playing. We're not gonna go there. He said it.
Oh Lord! And so we're
Yeah.
answer in the comments below if you've eaten something weird. Let us know in the comments what's one thing that you have eaten once and you'll never try again. I would like to know so that I can try all of those things. And so one thing that you may not know about me is that my favorite movie is the movie Brown Sugar. And I love in the beginning where it's like all the rappers and they kind of do and they're like, when did you fall in love with hip hop? And then they just get to all talking about it was Two Live Crew and then Somebody Crew and they was on the stoop and they was talking about all the stuff and then Common come out and it's just a great film to me. And so I want to start this episode kind of like that and ask you guys, when did you fall in love with food? If you did, can you remember the moment?
I don't know. I can't remember a time when I was not in love with food. Um, and I'll tie it to this. This was a running joke, and my dad still uses. I don't know if y'all remember. That was a commercial, a cereal commercial. I actually looked it up. I didn't realize it started in the '70s, but it was the whole Mikey likes it. Are y'all familiar with
I'm a youth,
Yes,
so I
that's
don't know.
my stuff.
that? So my dad would always call me Mikey because I would eat
Give it.
whatever.
He'll eat anything.
Exactly. And so when I was, I don't know, around age 10, 11, this is probably not the healthiest thing, but we would almost like compete at Denny's. They had the original Grand Slams and then they started getting all fancy on
Mm-hmm.
who could do the most and who could finish. And I was raised to finish whatever was on my plate. And I don't remember losing. So just from as far as I can remember, I've always loved food.
Nice. Need to get you a crown for your
Pretty much.
Denny's
Pretty
For
much.
competition.
your head.
Not gonna respond. I'm not gonna respond. I'm not gonna fall for that.
Lisa, what about you? Was there ever a moment for you?
Here's the truth. And I just, you know me, I just jump right in. As a person who has experienced the negative, well, there's only negative to me. Well, there could be some positive of having a eating disorder. I literally at one point used to write on my arm FITE, which stood for food is the enemy. So in my world, food is like that toxic boyfriend that you can't get away from. You, it's like it's a back and forth for me. Like you
Mm,
enjoy it, but then you feel guilty. So it's
yeah,
like continuous, and that's the truth. Like I'm the like, you know, because like we're so different. Like you being a foodie and like how you'll pay for like food and then
money.
I like experiences. So if I'm paying for it, I'm not paying for the food. I'm paying because it's like bougie, you know, or fancy. You
Mm,
know, my thing is like I will forego food if I can, you know, and find enjoyment somewhere else. So like food just ends up being something that it's like a double edged sword for me. So I'm not in love with food. Like even cooking is not
mm,
labor, a
yeah,
labor of love.
yeah. That's honest. I know when I was writing this question, I figured I was like, man, maybe everybody didn't have the experience that I did have. And you being my sister, I don't know that I even thought that you would say that you never loved food. But to hear that, I think that's really, I appreciate you for sharing that. Do you know, is there a moment when it turned for you
Turn
growing
to
up? Like when you just realized that you didn't like food?
I mean, no, I enjoy eating food, but I don't love it's not like it's just kind of like yes. It feels like something I'm sneaking, you know, like even
Hmm.
now like when I eat something that I really do love or like, you know, there's usually guilt associated with it. And
Hmm.
we'll talk about it, but like, because even as a result of having, you know, gone through having a eating disorder, your relationship with food is, for me, was a lot like punishment versus like I used it as an agent. It
Yeah.
was it wasn't, you know. So anyway, I do remember like I remember the first time food made me uncomfortable. It was when I remember sitting in the kitchen when we lived on Birdsong, and Daddy used to make hamburger helper
Shout out
of
to Bird
every,
Song.
you know, 903. But Daddy used to make the hamburger helper, tuna, chicken, everything. But this particular version was the regular hamburger helper, and he put so much of it on my plate it covered it. And I told him like I was full. And he was like, "You're gonna eat that. You better eat every bite of that, and you're not getting up until you eat all of that." And so I like stuffed myself, but I was like, it was like Matilda, you know. And
Yeah.
you know, I just didn't at that point. At that point I could never, even to this day, like I will eat all my food even when I'm full, just because I
Yeah.
that was like framework for me, you know.
Where do y'all think that that happy plate mentality comes from? Because I remember what
It
you're
comes from
talking about.
slavery. You don't know when you're gonna eat. It's a poverty mentality because when you
Hmm.
get to the point, in my opinion, because when you get to the point where you can do any kind of etiquette or refining school, many times they teach you that it's impolite. You need to leave something on your plate.
Hmm.
But also in our culture, if you leave something on your plate, that meant you didn't like it.
Hmm.
That's the part.
Because I
That's
remember Mama being like, "What's
what was wrong.
wrong with that?"
Yeah.
And you just like nothing, you know.
Yeah. That's the way you put the plate on top of the plate and then you like put it in the trash. Like,
Like you remember being at Auntie's house, not gonna say no names, and I remember like putting my food in a napkin and like folding another plate over it to like we were strategically trying to get rid of food, you know. When in anybody else's house, you probably would have been like, you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. I think that's interesting. Clint, do you have anything to add about? Is it poverty mentality? Is where that coming from? The happy place. I hear so many Black people saying that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I've ever put that much thought into it. I've always seen it. Maybe I was taught this as like a sign of respect,
Mm.
especially if I'm visiting. Um, I have a similar story. I was told it was a lie, but I remember the story fairly well, where I tried to pretend like I finished and I threw some food away, and some individual made me get the food out of the trash. I don't think I don't think I ate it, but it was kind of like it was kind of somewhat sort of kind of it was peas. It was English
What?
peas.
Hey, I
So
don't
was it about
what?
being wasteful? Like they
Yeah, not I didn't eat them,
I'm
but
sorry. Is this
it was kind of
judgmental? I
like
don't mean it to be.
it was like what?
I said I'm sorry. Is this judgmental? I don't mean it to be. Let me turn off my face.
no,
No, I
you have to
didn't.
lean into those facial expressions.
I don't think I actually ate it, but it was just the point of um, the situation. But I remember that story vividly. But no,
Hmm.
I'm I remember it being taught like it's a sign of respect. Um, for me, most of the time it was if you're gonna get it, eat it. Like don't load
Yeah.
Yeah,
up
yeah.
on
You sure you
stuff.
don't eat this?
Don't
You don't.
ask for yeah. So
Your
that
eyes bigger
that's
than your stomach. Yeah, that's
but
good.
in hindsight I do see now how that can be harmful, not helpful. And I try to do better with that with my own kids, but
Yeah,
But when you done cooked,
yeah. Or
yeah.
when you done paid,
when they ask for it,
Hmm.
eh,
yeah.
So how knowing that we all have similar stories in that, how do you now tell that you're full? Or can you now tell that you're full?
I'm not a good measure of that because I it's probably not until to get up, which is yeah.
That's
I
honest.
don't realize how much damage I did until I start moving. Because if I sit there with food, I will go well beyond my limit,
mm,
Hmm.
and that's just the truth.
mm.
Yeah. I feel like I had one of those experiences the other day, but I think it was more that it tasted good. I don't know if it's just out of habit, but I was cooking something. I was like, man, I really like this, and so I ate a whole lot of it. And then I got into bed and I could feel it in my throat, and I was like, okay, probably
Yeah,
shouldn't have ate all of that,
yeah,
but
Yeah.
it's too late.
yep,
Well, I think I'm to the point now where when I get full, because here I'm going back, there was literally a point in time in my life in which if I felt full, that was horrible.
Hmm.
Being hungry was what you should feel. And being full was like, you have to get rid of it, you know?
Hmm.
And so anytime I am stuffed, even to this day, I'm almost triggered to
Hmm.
throw up. So I have to like, I don't know. I just now I remember I was watching because me, I'm always on this weight loss journey. Now
Yeah.
that I'm not trying to control my life or gain any kind of control through an eating disorder of my life, I'm just trying to make healthy choices. Like I'm having to learn. And so I was listening to somebody and she was trying to help somebody lose weight and she made the statement of respect your fullness.
Hmm.
And so I was like, that's kind of deep. But the thing about it was, it's like, as soon as you feel like I'm satisfied, I'm good, you know where that is. But if it tastes good, it's like, I'm going to keep going
Yeah.
yeah,
because this is good,
Yeah.
you know? And that's like sin, right? Glut. Anyway, we're not going to go there. But that's kind of what it is. It is. It becomes, that's exactly how our brains think when we're talking about to sin or not to sin. Like I'm here to the point where now, oh, it won't hurt.
Yeah.
Just others, you know.
Yeah.
So I think now my fullness, I can feel it's like a little trigger, and I'm like, okay, I'm done,
Hmm.
you know. And then if I get too full, I never feel like, oh, that was worth it though. I always feel horrible. And so Mike hates, he be like, babe, please
That's
don't
good.
ask me to get nothing.
Yeah.
So he was like, because I don't want to hear you being upset at me.
Yeah.
You're not supporting my journey. Just you know, even though I done begged him to get me this peanut butter delight from Nanny Goats.
Yeah.
But because those things are fire.
And that's the thing for me is dessert. Is that food is great, but I remember the day that we were sitting at the table with Big Daddy Noble, our grandfather. I don't know if it's weird. I've never called him Big Daddy Noble in public. I don't know if that's weird or not. I remember sitting down to eat with him and him eating his dessert first. And me
That
being
was
like,
oh,
that was Uncle who?
I thought that was Uncle Joe.
Maybe it was Uncle Joe. I don't
Uncle
know.
Joe always at his. It don't matter. You're right. Go ahead.
One of them did this. And then I remember thinking, you can do that? Oh, this changes everything.
Right.
And I was like, I will never eat the same again. So from then on, I always ate half of my food so that I would never get full to the point that I did not enjoy dessert. Because dessert was always on the table for me. So,
See, I don't understand. See, me and Craig, my wife, I don't understand that because there's always room for dessert. And I know that sounds horrible, but like,
it's me.
I grew up, even with lunch, even if it was just like two or three Oreos. So now when I finish a meal, it's like, hey, I've got to finish it off with something. And
Some
like,
sweet. Have y'all seen that
we
TikTok?
I haven't.
we would have finished dinner, left the restaurant, and I'm like, hey, we got to swing by Andy's or Dairy Queen. Well, why? Because I want dessert. Well, you're not full? I mean, yeah, I am full, but I still got to have dessert. Like, I'm not done until I have. And I jokingly blame my parents for that because we always kept a gallon of Bluebell in the freezer. Period.
What
Like,
is it with y'all and ice cream? I
there
Okay.
can't get into
was
ice
Mike is the
zero
same way.
excuse. Zero excuse. Like you always have a gallon of Bluebell. Always.
cream.
Hmm.
I ain't never been into ice cream like that. I'm gonna
Oh
tell
my
you the truth.
goodness.
But
I always
Oh
one
my
thought ice cream was like the thing that went with something, not
yeah,
something you eat by yourself.
same, same. I had those same thoughts. We grew up the same house though, so that's probably why.
You know, the other thing with that too was that in my brain there was a special day for dessert. Like
Hmm.
it was Sunday. You know, like I knew that Sunday I was gonna get a dessert. Like,
Yeah.
like it was there was no let's eat something sweet every day. You know? Cause I even remember going to the store and asking for candy and mama being like, no. So I think I don't know. I don't even now, like as we're trying to build healthier habits in our home, our dessert day is Saturday.
Hmm.
If you want something sweet, y'all gotta watch the TikTok. You eat like a bowl of cereal or like some cinnamon toast crunch or something, like or a fruit snack. Like there's
I've
no
done that if I had nothing else left. Like that was a
Same. That's the
desperation.
last resort. Is fruit. Fruit snacks are last on the list.
And I'm mad while I'm doing it. I'm like, shoot, I ain't got nothing else. Let me eat this so I can go
Don't
lay
let it be
down.
the chewy fruit snacks neither. It's not even the good ones. You just eating them
oh,
like
they get stuck in
this.
your teeth. Like no, we can't say brands because one day you're gonna be on big screen. Never mind.
This is a letdown. Jeez. But yeah, I'm glad to know that also that experience is I'm not alone in. This is doing good to me, and we haven't even got halfway through these questions yet.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Jasmine, of you, do you ever feel like because like in my brain, I guess no, that's not your answer, but I be wanting to eat dessert by itself at a different time.
No, never.
So it's like I'll eat dinner and then I know that like in 2 hours I'll have something sweet because I feel like I can enjoy it better. For me, eating dessert on top of a stuffed stomach, I don't enjoy it the same.
Well, that's why I eat half the food though. Like I'm preparing mentally to know that I want to enjoy this. If I am full by the time I finish, then I will stop. But dessert is coming. I'm just gonna wait until I can enjoy dessert. I'll tell you
And
when
that
that
is
stopped for me. That stopped for me when I got to college, and I did that the first like couple weeks that I was in at SFA, and then I realized how expensive I was, And then I called our father and I was like, Daddy, you've been paying for this my whole life. Like we would go to Luby's and get 3 cakes, and I would be like, "Yes, rack it up."
Yeah,
And then I
Louis was
started
no
paying
joke.
for it, and I was like,
Woo,
"Hmm,
movies, R.I.P.
let me go and make some brownies for myself because this is very expensive." Yes. And so tell me what you, so we talked about eating, we've talked about happy place, we talked about the kind of the culture growing up. What about, I see a lot online, especially these days, especially about mental health, people talking about fitness and how important physical health is. How would I do this on mental health? I didn't mean it. Mental health is important to me. Oh, I'm sorry. And so people talking a lot about like physical health, but there is a culture that goes with that of diet culture. What
Mm.
are your thoughts about diet culture in particular, like the different fads that go on? And have you ever engaged in any of those? And what was that like?
I have. Um, I've attempted or experienced, my goodness, no telling how many. Um, where I am now is that I'm more interested in lifestyle. I'm more interested in what's sustainable. I've done so much damage, probably personally, and then in my house. I failed to mention earlier, married with 3 girls, and they've seen me go through these phases where I'm experimenting, trying to figure things out, and it's probably caused a lot of frustration because oftentimes when I'm on these trips, I'm trying to take everybody with me. That can be expensive, that can be stressful, that can be a lot of things.
Mm.
Um, and some of it, a lot of it specifically came from my time in the CrossFit culture,
Hmm.
which I decided a little bit over a year ago was no longer healthy for me. Um, and so I've had success, meaning I've dropped 20, 30 pounds at different times, 10, 15 here or there, but it was never sustained and I always gained it back,
Mm-hmm.
in the months to follow. And so what I'm trying to both learn, practice, and teach with the wellness community that we're just getting up and going is we're trying to figure out like what's realistic. Like let's put these images to the side. Let's deal with what real people deal with and struggle with. A lot of the conversations we're having right now,
Yeah.
and let's figure out what's going to keep us alive and what's going to sustain us and what's going to be healthy, not just physically, but also mentally and even spiritually.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I had a negative relationship with food, it's always been this myriad of like body image too.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
crazy part for me, like when I first experienced anorexia, and I lost a lot of weight because I was always like a chubby, thicker child. Having relatives who made comments about my body, comments about my weight, suggestions, and we all know how people can be, who are old school. Just to be honest, and it caused a lot of trauma for me. And so whenever I was um operating in anorexia and I dropped a lot of weight and then began to get praise
Mm.
for how I looked
Yeah.
before I started to look crazy, to some of my peers, it kind of there, even though it wasn't sustainable, there's always a point in my brain, and you may have even heard me say, like, the only way I know how to lose weight is to starve myself,
Yeah.
you know? And so when it comes to like, losing weight, like I've done the whole, cause like whenever I was experiencing that, like I could tell you the calorie of a sweet pea,
Mm-hmm.
like I knew the caloric intake and breakdown of everything.
Yeah.
And for me, when you start talking about a lot of people, whenever you're trying to lose weight, you do like the calorie deficit, you do, people who do intermittent fasting, to me, you just anorexic. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to shade anybody, but it feels the same way, you
Yeah.
know, and that's why it's dangerous for me Now it may work for somebody else, and so if you're out there and I've offended you, I'm sorry. I'm saying as someone who has operated in anorexia, intermittent fasting feels is a trigger for me, and it feels exactly the same. To
Yeah.
tell me I'm gonna fast 18 hours and eat, this many hours, like that feels the same.
Yeah.
And so even yeah, I've done many diet, but to answer your question, I've done many things. I did keto. That's how I ended up with my last two kids. You know, so keto, if you are someone who's struggling with infertility, like endometriosis, cysts, medically people put you on those diets. I didn't know that. I just knew that, hey, this kind of worked. Whenever I lost weight to get married, it was keto-esque. I didn't know what it was at the time. Shed and shredded so much. But it
Mm-hmm.
was so much. But like Clint said, it just wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
And I feel like every year we kind of live in a culture where people are just trying to make more money off of people's like that. You're fed a message to not like yourself, and then you're fed a message on how to get to a place where you can like yourself really, really quick. Even though the reason why you like yourself is a lifetime worth of mess in your head. So
Yeah.
we're always in this conundrum chasing after this carrot. And so, I think that, I too am in the same place right now where I'm having to tell myself that your weight loss this time is probably going to go a lot slower because you're trying to figure out what healthy choices make sense for you. What are things that you can do? How does this look like practically? Because even those mornings, even if I just said I wanted to go really hard on a workout every day, 2 times a day, like I'm not going to do that in 10 years. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what I can do daily. How do I make up for it? And so because I mean, when I look, and I know this is crazy sounding, but when I look at animals, unless those animals are in some kind of captivity where people are feeding them, they look just fine as for what they should be.
Yeah.
You don't see overweight lions. You don't see overweight tigers. We do that, when we get, and I just be thinking about that. And I'm like, okay, God is really providing for them and they're just making choices, just living their life, doing the thing they were meant to do. So how can I follow suit? And that may sound a little crazy to some people, but I'm just trying to simplify some things for myself
Yeah.
because I shouldn't have to spend $100 on books, $300 on this, just to when it's just really about what it goes back to is discipline,
Hmm.
you know. And Mike and I were reading this book, and there's other books out there, Made to Crave, and all these kind of things. But one thing that really stuck out to me in the book when we were reading in the verses of James was talking about the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
How no, this is Jackie Hill Perry said this. She was basically like, you will find that many people who struggle with taming their tongue, which things that they say, also struggle with discipline and other and in many other areas in their life.
Yeah.
And so when I think about that, ultimately what I'm trying to do is build discipline and make healthier decisions. So I'm starting with what comes out of my mouth and what goes in my mouth.
Yeah.
And
But do you think that there is a step before discipline that comes with self-acceptance? Because I'm hearing both
yeah,
of you guys say about just how the health journey has in the past has been dictated about weight loss, is what it sounds like both of y'all were saying. And so is it about discipline? I mean, I think the discipline is a portion of it, or is it about self-acceptance, and in this self-acceptance then you journey into being able to implement discipline that isn't punitive, is that the word I'm looking for, or harmful?
I think I used the wrong word because it's not just discipline for me. I think, and I do think to answer your question, it is about self acceptance. And I will be honest to tell you, I haven't reached step one if that's step one. I think too, in terms of like, I'm grateful to my body. If we want to start talking she, me, her, I'm so grateful for all the things that she's done. And so I actually have said thank you to God for giving me, but I think that when it comes to what I was trying to say is more or less when I look at an another being God created, such as a lion, it's not looking at the other lion like, man, you got a 6 pack. I wish I could have that 6 pack. You know what I'm saying? And I think we, as humans, we live in a society where we're always comparing and coveting and envying. And that's what makes us spend money or do crazy things so that we can be like something else. So it's not discipline, it's more like wisdom and just being who you are. And
Yeah.
so that's that self accept. That will be self acceptance for me. It's like if I could just be like, I don't know why I'm talking about animals so much today, but if I could just be like a horse and just be like this, I probably could, you
Yeah.
know. But I think that a lot of times too, and I may contradict myself here, sometimes when I look back at older pictures, it's
Mhm.
like, man, she was a baddie. I wish I could go back and tell her, enjoy that person.
Yeah.
Because after you have these 3 kids, you're going to be new.
So we're talking about wisdom, we're talking about self-acceptance, we're talking about lions. And I think that I've thought of, because of the circles that we're in, I've thought about self-acceptance and I've thought about societal pressures a lot from what it looks like for women, and just like how to deal with that yourself, and how those things impact your view of yourself and how you interact with food. But I'm wondering, what do y'all think the societal pressures look like for men, particularly Black men? Because I'm thinking about surgeries that they have now where you can get taller and they add inches to people. They like
What?
taking people's bones in their leg and they like stretching it and they like putting stuff in there. But then you got long legs and short arms, so I don't know how that works exactly. But it's a thing. They got them little heels that men put in their shoes now to make them a
Sis, I
little
don't want no
taller.
part of
They
it.
got them pieces that they be putting on their hair. And I'm gonna
The
tell you
man
right now.
weave.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna let you talk, Clint, because you the man. But I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm not opposed to a man weave. I just want to say that to all of you men out there that are looking for that. The only stipulation that I have is that if you're gonna start, don't start what you can't finish. So make sure you can
Baby.
upkeep that thing. Make sure it's every 2 weeks you're going to get that thing glued back down on your head.
Nonsense.
Okay. Just don't.
Nonsense.
If
Are
you
you going to help
start
me? Are you
You
going to help
start
me?
it, finish it. That's all I'm saying. Also, if you wear them little heels in your shoes, make sure you put them in your house shoes and all your shoes, because you can't come in the house and then be shorter than you was when we was out the house. I just need you to be the same in all the places. Okay, that's my expectation.
Ooh.
Because if I wouldn't get my hair done and not keep my hair up, I try to do something to my head. May have an off day. Just make sure you got an appointment to go back. Just can't switch it up in the middle. So,
Oh, Lord.
but now you can tell us about the societal pressures of men.
Wow. So, apart from the man weave, because I cannot speak to that.
Obviously. Yeah.
As I would say, um, I mean, yeah, I think there is a component that men deal with that as well. So for me, it started when I stepped into the space as a trainer, and when I started, part of the teaching was, well, hey, if you're going to lead this lifestyle, you need to live this lifestyle, which I don't disagree with that. Um, I don't disagree with that at all. But it got to the point to where I started trying to probably appease the expectation that I thought the community had, and that's where it probably got harmful. Everything from just like listening to comments people would make, like, "Oh man, you got this," or "Man, look at those guns," or it might be about your legs, or it might be about a specific lift or performance. I don't know. For me, it just got old, and it got weird. It got very weird. Um,
You mean in CrossFit in particular?
yeah, I mean, it's not super uncommon. I mean, definitely in the gym, but it's not super uncommon for me to be, I don't know, at a grocery store and me talking to somebody that I know or don't know, and then all of a sudden the conversation without me taking it there just turns to fitness or turns to working out or to, um, and I don't know. It took me a while to kind of adjust to that. At first, for me, it was like, okay, I need to be this image. Even more so, specifically in CrossFit, because it's such a predominantly white-led culture. Um, it was a combination of trying to live that as a trainer, but then it was also because I was one of the few, if not the only, black man in that setting. And so it was like, okay, well, I've got to maintain a certain standard. I've got to lead in certain things. I can't be the one that's not representing well. And so I'm like, it was a number of things that I just over time was just like, nah, this is not something that I even want to try to uphold, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think a lot of times too that it feels like, and we're gonna talk to professionals, but it feels like that because you mentioned about like being compared to white bodies in particular, that it can feel like we'll never be able to look like whatever the majority culture is. And so because we're built quite definitely differently, that when we're next to them, especially growing up in predominantly white spaces and working in predominantly white spaces, it can feel like you need to adjust to look as to assimilate as close as you can to possible. And I'm saying that like I remember being in middle school, and middle school is weird for everybody. But I remember being in middle school, and I remember being one of the few black girls that was in the class. And it was around the time that Bubba Sparks came out. And it was that song Miss New Booty. And I remember people making that song my ringtone on their phone and then like calling my phone and during class, or just that people saying that song about me in these predominantly white spaces. And I remember thinking, man, I wish that I didn't look like this so that I wouldn't draw attention to myself in this space. Like,
Wow.
not that there was anything wrong with it, but just like, oh, I just wish I could I wish that there was other people that look like me at least. So then it wouldn't feel like I'm the only person in this space with a butt that is standing out to people. I don't know that I've ever shared that with you both
I did
before,
not know that. I had a
but it was
similar experience.
yeah, it was very weird.
But you know what that reminds me of?
What?
Like you read in history or you look in history about how,
Yeah.
but to the point of what you were just saying, a similar experience happened to me when I was in middle school. Like they had this whole almost like competition around butts. And I guess I won, but it was not like, yay. It just felt like you were on display. And I literally remember praying that God would take my butt away. And
Mm,
it felt like he did. Because when I got to high school, all I kept hearing was that I didn't have a butt. And then I was around like black people, and I remember you and
yeah.
Bob in front of me. But anyway, I'm healed. Um, so I just think that that's kind of interesting
Yeah. And
because
even thinking about too, just I know that me and Alicia have had conversations, but I'm hearing what you're saying, Clint, too, just about people commenting on your body again. And I'm thinking about, I've talked to Alicia often that people do make comments about my physical appearance a lot. And that it does make me uncomfortable. And it feels like people don't see me, that they just see me physically, but they don't. It's being beautiful and body are two different things to
yeah,
me in my brain. And so when people comment on your body, but they don't comment on anything else, it feels like you see me as an object and not like you see me as a person.
Yeah.
And I never thought that men experienced that until what you were just saying.
mm,
And I feel like maybe it's either disguised, maybe even not realized, because a lot of men strive for that kind of praise or attention.
Mm.
And I've been there before. I mean, when I first came into the fitness space, if anything, that in my mind, that probably was a validation. Like, okay, they respect, they recognize. But I don't know when it happened, but there was just a point where it just kind of, and I was like, it might have been age. I don't know. But I was just like, this, this is not normal. And it was not that it never happens in other spaces, but it was just overemphasized.
Yeah. What were you finna say, Alicia?
Um, I don't know if I can make it clear. I don't know if I could clarify the thought. It just kind of. I was wondering if any of us, thought that there was a way to have your body appreciated by someone else and not have it be something that could make you uncomfortable. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, or almost, because in our faith and in our culture, a lot of that immediately can be tied to lust and all
Mm-hmm.
those different things. And so it's like, how would you appreciate a body without, I guess, sexualizing it?
Hmm.
Because
That's a good question.
you have to, and you may want to stop me, but when I hear you say things like, Clint, it got weird, that's what it sounds like in my mind. Like somebody was like, oh, he's muscly, like, because in school, when I was dealing with the whole butt thing, it was like, oh, like, it wasn't like, oh, that's a nice butt, you've been doing squats, it wasn't like.
Your voice has to change the way you say it.
I'm sorry,
And
but
I think in the fitness realm specifically, it can be.
okay.
The first thought that came to my head when you said that was with relationship.
Hmm.
Like if it's somebody that I'm connected to, that I trust, a trainer or just a co whoever, and we're working, it's like, hey, I see your progress. I see
Okay.
you working. Now, what I'm talking about is just like there are certain individuals that I know 99.9% of the time, upon my seeing them, they're going to comment. Um, these are not people who I'm, you know, super close to, have depth of relationship with, and things of that nature.
Hmm.
This is just random, whoever's.
And I think that that's an interesting take. I don't know that I feel like even if people that I'm in a relationship with, they comment on my body, it still makes me feel weird. And maybe that's some work that I need to do within my own self. If, in those feelings that I'm having, I don't know how to answer the question, but I think it's a good question to ask. Is in what space is it appropriate, and is it non-sexualized to make
And
comment on bodies?
I'm saying it from a trainer's perspective, who I'm having conversations with somebody and they're specific, like, hey, I'm trying to get stronger in this thing.
Yeah. See, I
Yeah.
can see, I can see what you're saying.
You know?
I don't. I've not been. Because, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong. Because the goal there is to make like gains, right? So if you were focusing
Depending.
on your quads, if your quads got bigger, you'd be like, oh yeah, you got some nice legs, or would they say quadriceps? Who knows?
What is a quad? What's a word?
It's your thigh. I'm all off topic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Interesting. Interesting. So I had in the one of the therapists that I've been talking to about just eating disorders and having complicated relationships with food and what that looks like. She uses the phrase "coming home to your body." To
Mm.
come home to your body. When you hear that, what do you think?
It makes me think of being a baby in your mother's womb when you were free of opinions of others, from the opinions of others. And all you had was communing with God and just, you're just kind of existing at peace. Like,
Yeah.
I'm even thinking of my kids who are all very young. They haven't been tainted, by the world, you know. as to what their body should or shouldn't look like. Like in my son's mind, my flabby, saggy stomach makes all the sense in the world. You know, in his mind, like they're all boys. They're just running around here just free. Nobody's like, oh, and I try very hard to protect them from outside opinions because I do notice when we go certain places, people admit, oh, he's big, oh, he's this, oh, he's that. And so when I think coming home to your body, I think of, home being a safe space and that moment in your innocence when it was just a body and you needed legs to walk. You needed
Mm,
arms. Kind of like what I was getting to with the animals. Just like they
yeah,
just in their body. Like this, I
yeah,
need this. I'm a spirit. I need this body to operate in this world.
yeah,
One day I won't need this body, you know? So let's just call it what it is. It's a
yeah.
vessel, but we paint it, I don't know. That's so sweet. Come home to your body. I need that on a hoodie.
To me, that just sounds like peace. Um, Something that we're trying to practice, I guess, first and teach. And I think it connects to the statement you said earlier, Jasmine, about self acceptance. Is that I've said this, not that I've mastered this, but if you treat your body well, your body will treat you well.
Mm,
And it's not trying to conform it to whatever image. Like,
yeah.
now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be stronger. That's not what I'm talking about. But instead of saying, I'm going to go hard so that I can have a six pack for the summer, or so that I can have a certain body part, something that we're trying to teach is, well, just treat your body right. Like, give it what it proper fuel, proper sleep. Do the bare minimums and just see how your body responds,
Mm,
and then trust your body when it responds,
Yeah.
instead of trying to force it to conform to something that was put in your head or whatever. Um, and so to me, when you say that, that's kind of what I think is just like being at peace. I remember a distinctive 2011 ish after my first child. I used to not be so aware of what I looked like. Like I didn't care to not have a six pack. But since then, oh my goodness, it has dang near consumed me to the point that when I'm not, it's like, okay, I'm always working. I gotta put in this time. I gotta be anal about what I'm eating. And if I'm not there, I'm always, um, displeased.
Hmm.
mm. Does that does that mean what you just said? Because it makes me think of somewhere I heard that somebody said your body has a natural tendency to be a certain way, and like I mean, outside of having a baby, like if I was just to like kind of do what you said, like our bodies, I guess our bodies wouldn't. I don't know how to put it, but it makes me feel like we wouldn't be working out as hard if we just would chill and eat non-processed foods and just be. What happened?
I don't know. He'll be back.
But does that make sense, Jasmine?
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Mm,
I'm even thinking about too, because even when we were talking about earlier, we were talking about like being in predominantly white spaces and those things. And I think about healthcare, right? And I think about things like BMIs, and you go to the doctor, and every time it's that you're overweight. Every time it's that these things that you need to eat better, you need to do these things. And I wonder how much of that, I don't want to say the doctors are lying, but I wonder how much of that is just that it doesn't fit the norm or the standard that these tests were done to.
yeah, I do agree. I definitely feel like there should be because our body because if we have over time evolved into different forms, and our bodies already have, like, if you can say with science and in the health industry that African Americans have a proclivity to hypertension, all these different diseases, then you have to also be able to say on another end that maybe our body has a different starting point. You can't differentiate.
I like the use of that word there.
You can't differentiate and say this, we have a proclivity to this negative thing, and not say, well, hey, your 170 pounds looks a whole lot different than her 170 pounds. Because almost every African American Black woman that I know, if she was 170 pounds, she would look like a 125-pound white woman.
Yeah.
But and so, because I remember when I was in college and I was out of the very last big episode of my eating disorder that I had, and I was wanting to lose weight, and I called one of those people where they over the phone, you're supposed to give them my information and they're gonna be your support. Well, after I gave them my details, she told me I was morbidly obese. And I was like several sizes smaller than I am now.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of like, you
What do you
know,
do with that? Yeah. What do you do with that information?
like,
Yeah.
then she kind of judged me a lot. And like now, when I tell somebody my weight, I'm just like, I need you to see me first. Can you just see me before you, judge me with this number? Because I know if I come in, after telling you're gonna tell me that I'm where they always say, well, you wear it well.
Yep, they do say that.
You wear it
That's
well.
so interesting.
You wear it well. No, our bodies are different. It's denser. We have historically our bodies have had to evolve and change and do different things.
Yeah.
If you can believe that a sphinx, or a cheetah in Africa is different from a cheetah over here, you've got to believe that this human being with these set of traits is different from this set of being with these separate traits. We're really talking about the fact that I'm sorry, never mind.
That's good. I think we can get into a whole nother conversation about BMIs and body types and all of that. And I even think about I remember being in culinary school and learning about like nutrition and hypertension and where that comes from and talking through that. And I remember the teacher saying that hypertension or high blood pressure was preventable. And I don't know that ever even went through my mind growing up, that I just thought that at some point in your life, you're going to get it. It's coming for you. And so just be prepared to take medicine is what I thought. And then they were like, well, you don't have to, because they had grandparents that didn't have it. And I was like, oh, so there are different things we can do to not like it. It is so normalized in my family that I was just like, this is what happens when you get a certain age.
Well, can I go too deep right here on that?
Go ahead.
I really feel like if we're talking about our relationship with food, we use food to soothe trauma and pain. Because we have a culture and a people, we haven't historically had a tendency to get therapists. Food has been our therapist. Yeah. So when you pair stress with food being a therapist.
Wait a minute. Wait. Let it breathe for a second. You said food has been our therapist.
Yes.
That was good to me. That's good. Come on. Now, I'm sorry. That was good. I just needed to sit with it for a second without having to intake any other information.
Well, it just, you satisfy with food. You celebrate with food. When you're sad, the food releases like, oh, this is what I needed. You may have said those same words in therapy. You may have said those same words in a talk with your friend. And so if you're talking about us having a proclivity to go, I want to use that word so much today. But if you're talking about us having a relationship with food, food for us is how we bring our people together. Food is how we heal. I can't tell you how many times early in our marriage, like food was the I'm sorry. And that's, I love TikTok, but there's so many TikToks where people be like, how you in a black house, how a parent says sorry is how you want to go get some ice cream. Like, food is our exchange, and it is the way that we say I love you. We may not be able to buy a whole bunch of or want to buy, but I know from now, as I mentioned earlier, I don't like cooking, but I see what happens on my husband's face when I cook certain things. I see what happens in my children's eyes when I make certain things. And so I do it because food speaks to them.
Yes, it does.
And so I think I have a hard time with, you know,
You're saying something. You're saying something.
I don't know. I just think, and again, I just think that I
Because it's accessible. Because food, I mean, maybe not all the best foods are accessible, but it is accessible and it is a reliever and it is a comforter and it is a very intimate thing, even if you're thinking about it becoming a, I mean, I don't want to go
it
too far
becomes a
down
part of
that hole.
you. Yeah,
It
yeah,
becoming a part of you and just the process that it even takes to eating, the mindfulness that it takes to sit down and eat a meal. When somebody passes away, we're saying, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna take something over there. Like, it's just,
yeah.
this is how
And you're
we
not taking salad,
eat. Right. You're taking the
fried
greasiest,
chicken.
cakiest, all of the things, because if there is something that can ease the pain, then let it be this. And maybe that hasn't always been the healthiest thing, but it has been a consistent thing across Black communities. Food has been our therapist, huh?
But
And
even go ahead. Go ahead, bro.
well, I was just gonna say, I agree, and just to connect with something you said earlier, when I first started my career as an engineer, every year we'd have our safety seminars, and they would always start with that diagram where African American male was always at the top, to which I think similar to what Jasmine said, my understanding was, oh, well, because I'm a black man, I'm more likely to heart attack, stroke, fill in the blank. Um, until I think the cultural part of it switched. But I don't believe, I don't know that I've necessarily proven this. This is kind of maybe a hypothesis that I'm trying to, I don't believe that part of it has to change per se if it's moderated.
You mean the food as a therapist?
Right.
Okay.
I don't either.
If it's moderated appropriately, because like you said earlier, Alicia, which I think was perfect. Well, okay, dessert day is going to be on Saturday. Perfectly fine. So if I'm developing a strategy where Monday through Friday I'm good, who cares what you do on Saturday, Sunday to an extent?
I mean, I don't know about the boundaries, but I think that there is, like, when you think about nutritional psychiatry, I mean, I think the boundaries are good. Let me say that. I think that the boundaries are good. I think that everything needs a boundary. That's why okay, shut up, Jasmine, come back to this moment. But I think that when you're even thinking about nutritional psychiatry, how do we use food to help us
Right.
and not harm us? How do we use food as to be medicine to us, as something that is accessible? When we couldn't access these things, we use the knowledge we had, we use the parts that we were given to create meals that were delicious. Yes,
You remember?
I remember, that's where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we now, with the new information that we have, use food to empower us and to help us rather than just to be a comforter for us? Because I don't think the comforting is bad. I just think we got to
Right.
figure out how to use food the way that God intended for us to use food.
Because
Well, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say the when y'all were talking, the first thing I said was, yeah, there's a whole industry that's aware of that and then that exploits that. And so you
Mhm.
think of like food deserts where I am now, to where what's accessible, what's easy, what sells quick, what's convenient.
Right,
And so bringing that awareness and the knowledge and saying, hey, we can still celebrate um, in balance.
right. I think it also, understanding. You hear the quote all the time, like "eat to live, lit, but not live to eat."
Yeah,
I think that if there was a way for us to kind of like merge the idea of, like creating an experience. That's why I love when I see the businesses coming forth now. I think her name is Bria London. I learned of it today, where she's creating these like fancy picnics, that women can go and partake in and be a part of. Yeah, and like sitting at the pillows and the charcuterie board, like create, because ultimately what we want now is an experience,
Yeah.
what we can do now to help, because ultimately charcuterie board is just summer sausage and
It's
I
just
didn't
a
know how to pronounce
lunchable.
that.
It is a
huh.
I
lunchable
said I didn't know
sauce.
how to pronounce that.
Yeah, it's just a lunchable, baby, that we
It's
just
a
wrapped up and put
lunchable.
some grapes on the board, but I think that people enjoy doing it in a new what doing those things, eating foods in a new way. And so for
Yeah.
me, I will try, my friend was trying to get me to try some sea moss, and I was like, sis, what? That's but if we're gonna do it together, let's try. And so I think that when it comes to building a healthy relationship with food, it's like with anybody, it's like with anything, it's all about, it's even what the word of God tells us, ultimately you can be angry but don't sin. Just don't go too far. You can do these things, but don't go too far. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now there is a definite black and white line, you know, but I think a lot of what it is that understanding that, you know, we tend to want more and 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 more. And that's where the gluttony comes in. When you think,
Mhm.
I think about, and that makes me think about our father at 12 o'clock at night sneaking into the refrigerator to eat
Other people's
all of
food.
the banana pudding.
Other people's food. Not his. The food that
And
belongs to others.
we laugh about it, but I also think about all the things that was on our father's heart,
Hmm.
all the things that he was like stressing about, thinking about, working through, holding in. And if he could just eat that little banana pudding, he just got so happy.
Because
And so
food was the therapist.
I think we have to,
Right.
I just think we have to find a way to help people experience joy and satisfaction in multiple areas of their life.
Yeah, so the food isn't the only place that that's
Yeah.
happening.
Because for some of us, it's like, if I can just get to Friday, I've been having my bottle of Moscato chilling all week, just or all day, whatever it is. We just went on that one moment, and I think that if we could build fuller lives,
Yeah.
which is very difficult in a pandemic, because I'm
Yeah.
really over all this virtual. I want to be safe. I want to be safe. Let me say that I want to be safe. But I also, as someone who just got out of being in isolation, like I want to hug my mother. I want to hug my sister. I want, my kids think that if we don't have masks, like why do they not have a mask on? We watching a movie, and so I want to be able to give our family fuller experiences,
Hmm.
but it's, even when we think about us, when we hang out, y'all want to go get something to eat, we could spend that same money on, bowling, throwing axes, whatever, but we always default to, well, we gotta eat.
Yeah.
And so I think that, there's nothing wrong with that. But I
Yeah.
think we have to figure out how to live fuller lives so that we're not always waiting for this one moment. This.
Yeah. And even and we're getting close to the end of time, and I do want to honor you guys' times. And I thank everybody that's tuned in, that's been watching it this long. Please put "food has been our therapist" in the comments, just so you can affirm Alicia in that thought, because it was excellent, and I think it may change my life. But I I think that a big thing for me, as I've been going through therapy myself, like seeing having my own therapist, and I'm in my counseling hours now, and I'm going through this program, that a big thing in therapy is finding a hope, right? And being able to helping a person to be able to find the hope in their own lives. And I know for me that something that really drives my style of counseling and the people that I want to counsel is that I want to give Black people in particular, all people, yes, but there I have a special place in my heart for Black people,
Yeah.
the opportunity to know what it looks like to experience joy and to
Yes.
be able to set aside all of the painful things, which is very difficult because there are a lot of really systemic things that are out of our control that yield us logical reason to be overwhelmed and to be
Yeah.
hurt and to be burdened and to not know how to interact with our lives because of time, because of money, because of constraints that are all around you, because of real life obstacles that you may not be able to change those things. But starting points for me is about helping people to locate areas in their life where you can be in charge of joy for yourself. And you
Yeah.
can have the capacity to have joy for yourself and to accept yourself and to come home to your body and to not need external validation for that joy to be valid. And that's a big thing for me, and I know that that's a big thing for these two too. And so my hope is that that's what you're learning as you're enjoying our conversations and as you're trying to figure out what eating good looks like for you in your life, and as you're trying to figure out what are changes that you can make in your diet to help you just feel better on a day-to-day basis. If food has been your therapist, then I want to introduce you to some other therapists that can talk you through the emotional turmoil that you may be in. So please do stay tuned to Starting Point. But if you two could, in the last couple minutes, tell us in what ways can Black communities be supported in care, mentally and physically. So if there was a place for people to start in caring for themselves, how would you encourage them to do that? Or how are you trying to figure out how to do that yourself?
Um, I can start specifically by mentioning what I said earlier with the wellness community that that we've started. It's a very small group. Um, and we're trying to, in a lot of ways, do exactly what you've been describing. One, we're creating this space with people of color, specifically Black people, in mind, taking together, what we've known culturally, what we've experienced, our successes, our failures, just so that like you have a space where you don't feel judged, don't feel uncomfortable, are at peace, and it's just like I'm coming with what I have. Um, it's kind of like what I've heard and been taught that like a church is not an environment where everybody has together. Or at least it shouldn't be, not a healthy one. And I'm hoping that we create a similar community where anybody at any walk of life. And so I'm trying to create that with what we have. It's three of us who are trainers, two Black men, one Black woman, one guy. The Black trainer and his family are plant based, which is way different than anything I've ever experienced. And so we're all just kind of bringing our experiences and our knowledge to the table. And so prayerfully here in East Texas, we'll get that going. But I would encourage people to find spaces that prioritize people of color.
I
That's
think,
good.
yes, I don't know. I'm a little bit emotional by these. Not that I'm going to cry. I'm just kind of like, hmm. I think that one, we have to understand that it's okay to need that space.
Hmm.
We have to prioritize it and be at peace with it. We live in a culture that will guilt trip you right out of that space because, and I'm not trying to be any type of way, but even as we're talking, because I've been around the conversations or the people so many times, well, Black people aren't the only people, or this people, you hear those talks, and so you instantly try to like water your needs down. Don't do that. It's okay to need what you need. And the relationship that we have with ourselves Second to God, in my opinion, is the most important because I have to live with my thoughts. I have to live with my trauma. I have to live with my feelings. I have to live with this body. And if I don't prioritize needing to be in a space where I can breathe, I'm going to suffocate. We don't have anything to prove. You don't have anything to prove if you're listening and this is touching you. You don't have to prove to people that you love everybody. They know that.
Yeah.
So, I think that if you're talking about prioritizing care, you have to understand that somebody may be disappointed in your choice to, for both of y'all in y'all's methodology to want to, serve with Black people in mind. That's going to hurt somebody's feelings because you're both amazing people. But we all know sitting at this table that there have been many tables we've sit and tried to share our trauma and there were attempts made to talk us out of our truth. There are attempts made to invalidate our experience. And that I know that that's a result of ignorance and not wanting to be, whatever, but that ain't none of my business. And at this point in my 35th year of life, we say a lot of things: feel your feelings, live your truth. And I don't mean at the expense of the gospel. I believe that my truth, as a result of being redeemed in Christ, I can walk in that truth and live my truth. And my truth is I'm a mess. you know, and whatever I am at that day. And so I think that, and I hope I'm answering your question, Jasmine, but I think the first step to, for us getting care and for us, being well is giving ourselves the space to offend. I'm not trying to, but if I'm operating in love, first for myself, second for my family, well, first for God, second for myself, third for my family, and I want to be well, then I may choose to go be in this space with other people that look like me so that I can breathe a little bit, a
Mm-hmm.
lot, you know. And so I think too, I would definitely, because like me, I'm still looking for a therapist. So I would definitely suggest everyone having a therapist of some sort. But if you're in between, building some things into your daily routine that you can do that allows you to reflect. So, I've started faith journaling, focusing on a scripture. People laugh at me and my stickers, but them stickers in my faith journal and all the things that I'm doing to be mindful until I can find a therapist that's right for me, that's helping me. It's something to
Yeah.
look forward to. And sometimes it disappoints even my own family because they want my time. But I have to take that time in order to preserve my mind. I'm gonna be a rapper today,
Come on.
you
Come
know.
on. When
And
did you fall
so
in love with hip hop, huh? That's
you right. We just can't be we can't be afraid. You cannot be afraid to disappoint somebody on your journey to wellness.
that's
That's
good.
why you here, because you've been trying to please everybody else.
Woo. If you made it this far, you
you
needed to
know,
hear that. You needed to hear that.
so and I think a lot of times we have and when I was thinking about food being our therapist, the whole thing is like we love food because food don't talk back to us. Food don't hold us accountable. Food just make us feel good, you know? And so you you've got to be willing to understand that that's not necessarily what you may need.
And the thing that's so crazy about the food doesn't talk back, that food has become it can become this idol for us, but it's creation, because God could have had us get our nutrients from anywhere, right? We could have been flowers, we could have sat out in the yard and did this and been full and been okay, but he wanted us to eat because he wanted us to be reminded that we don't exist by our own right. Like,
Mm,
we are dependent on the things around us in order to be sustained from day to day.
mm-hmm,
We are created to be dependent on being sustained to live. And
You
that dependency is on him. Every time you're hungry, food is a reminder of your dependency on God.
Ooh, because you're supposed
And
to be
but
hungry for him.
but in an ability in a response to cope, we have taken it out of its place, and it's become this other thing. And I think that that's an interesting thought, and I think that I gotta keep thinking about it because I want to.
Will
Okay,
there be one?
come on, we're gonna pass the play. If you would like to give to starting point, please do.
Listen,
I'm gonna
but
figure out a way for you to do that.
this was awesome, Jasmine. I don't know. I hope I answered your question, but there's just
You
so many
do.
things. I would like to say also, if there's anybody out there who has dealt with eating disorders, anorexia and or bulimia, because believe it or not, in two very different times in my life, I experienced both.
Or
You
binge eating disorder.
Yeah, or binge eating disorder. Um, you can reach out to me and hit up Jasmine, and she'll tell you how to get in contact with me because it is a lot. And I know, just a quick caveat, the thing with my first round that got me out of it was that somebody saw me, and it was our father. I was in the bathroom trying to purge, and he was like, boom, hugged me, and I just broke.
Yeah.
And nobody in the house, rest of the house, understood what was happening, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know why I
Yeah.
shared it.
Yeah. That's good. I think it's necessary. I think being seen is important. So please know that the reason that this is created is because we see you, and it was time for you to be seen. And so now comes the work of figuring out what to do next. And so know the help is out there for you. I thank you so much for tuning in to Starting Point today. I hope that this was good to you, as good as it was to me. We could talk for hours, and I may have to bring them back so we can talk again about some more stuff. But be sure to follow these two at, can you tell them your handles?
At Clint2, CLENT, the number two, Twitter, Instagram, and then Facebook, Clint Home, CLENT.
Don't follow me, follow Longview Queens United. Not just
Okay.
playing. You can follow me, just Alicia Johnson, pretty much everywhere, or the lady speaker.
It's dope. They're dope people. They're for the people. I am thrilled that they were on here today, and I can't wait to see you guys next week. So thank you for joining us, and bye.
About to go eat the Lord's chicken. That